There is a drug epidemic happening here in America. Our fathers, mothers, sisters, brothers, nieces, and nephews are dying each and every day. Enough is enough. It's time to fight back. Welcome. You are now about to witness the beginnings of the underground church in America. Our government has been infiltrated with Luciferians, and our cities have been infiltrated with madness. They want our heads. They want our silence. This is our response in Christian resistance. We are a select few of Christian soldiers, and we need to know, are you down? And now, for the minister.
Super Soldier
Gangsters! What's up, guys? Welcome back. This video I'm gonna shoot is I should have did it a long time ago. I should have did it years ago, as a matter of fact, but it's taken me this long. I waited because I knew that I wasn't gonna be able to talk about it without getting emotional. You guys know how I am, right? I get emotional. So it's real hard to talk about, but I'm not doing it on my behalf. I'm not doing it because I wanted to make a video. I'm doing it to fulfill an obligation of sorts to a friend of mine that's no longer able to do it himself, okay? And so when I speak of him, I do it with complete reverence, and I want you to know before I even get started that I got permission to talk about this from his brother, which is my friend, okay? So let me give you a little bit of background. When I was little and around the third grade, this is in 1984, I believe. I was living in San Jose, California, and I moved our family up and moved to Santa Rosa, California. Okay, and in third grade, Mrs. Hurt's class in Lincoln Elementary School, okay, West 9th, Santa Rosa, California, okay. It was around 84. Some of the first guys I met became my friends, and I'm still friends with them now, right? I'm still friends with them now on Facebook. I wish I was a lot closer to them, you know, but I live in Texas now, so I'm not able to be connected the way we used to when we were kids, right? But I had a friend, and he had a younger brother, and that's who I want to be talking about. I want to be talking about his younger brother. This particular friend I had, his younger brother was maybe, he was a few years younger than us. I'd say 3 years, maybe 4 years, you know, younger than us. So every time we would want to go do something like play at the park or do something, he'd always, like a typical younger brother, right? Hey, I want to go. He wants to be in playing football. He wants to do this. And he was part, and they had a beautiful family. Let me tell you. They had an older sister, younger siblings, and their parents. The weird thing was, like, his mom was like my mom, reminded me a lot like my mom, right? And their dad was, my life has been blessed having known him. He is just the most awesomest individual, and what a blessing to have known his dad. I mean, real salt of the earth, good guy, you know, and he had great parents, you know, and you know, we all went to school together, lived in the bad neighborhood together, okay, you know. So life went on, and I started making these videos, these antidote for addiction videos, right? When I first started the antidote addiction in the summer of 2019, and I would send them to my friends on Facebook, and you know, he was one of them, the younger brother. He was one of them, and he contacted me, and he said, "Hey, Soda Jerk, I wanted to tell you a story." Now, I hadn't seen him since the early 90s, since the early 90s. Okay, I hadn't seen him. And when he would come around, they would come and get me from my house and say, hey, homeboy's here, and I'd come around like, hey man, how's your older brother doing? Because I was friends with his older brother, right? And everybody would come to say hi to him. He was like a legend, We would love to see him around West 9th, Simpson Place. When he came, we'd all, hey man, and get caught up. How's your parents doing? Just get caught up every time he'd come and visit. Everybody would come out of the houses. I remember just meeting with them, and it was just, he was just a good-looking kid too. Good-looking kid. So he contacts me all these years later, right, when he's watching these Antidote for Addictions, and he wanted to tell his story. Okay, he wanted me to interview him. So, okay, I'm not tech savvy at all, okay? And my son, he's the guy who does the digital everything, with the YouTube channel, right? And so we're trying to figure out how we're going to get this interview to go down, right? Well, the interview never happened because 3 weeks later, we found out that he had passed away, and the story that he wanted to tell was never going to be able to tell it no more because he's not here. So on his behalf, this is what he really wanted to do. He really wanted to get out his story. And so on behalf of him, and I hope I do a great job, and I hope I honor him in doing this, but I'm going to tell his story the way he told it to me, okay? So when he wanted to tell his story about addiction, and how he was shooting opioids, okay? Opioids. And I said, how did you, because even everything that I've been through, I never went down that road, okay? I was smoking meth, I was doing that, but I was never going down that road. And I couldn't understand how him coming from such a good home and everything going right for him, brothers and sisters that loved him, parents that adored him, okay? Friends that just absolutely, the future is bright. I said, how did you become? And so he told me that he was injured, that he had been injured, and that in the injury, I can't remember what kind of injury he had, but he went to a doctor that prescribed him Oxycontins, and he remembers paying $10 for a bottle of 300, and they told him take it 3 times a day. Well, he said, Soda Jerk, I couldn't take it 3 times a day. I was just so high. I just could not possibly, my body couldn't take it, And he was hanging with the wrong crowd, of course, you know what I'm saying? And somebody showed him, like, hey, man, you could, that's not the only way you could do it. You could sell these pills. You could shoot these pills. You could smoke these. I don't know what. But he started doing way more than what he was supposed to have done, right? And hanging out with the wrong influence people, right? And what the doctor had prescribed him. Well, when he was telling me this story, he said, Javier, this doctor has went to prison for the crimes he had committed because under his care some deaths occurred. Though he wasn't the only one that got, some deaths occurred, and he went to prison for it, But then after, so back to his story, when of course, you're an addict now, and see, that's the thing about addiction is that you don't go out and say, hey, I want to be a opioid addict. It happens in increments, just things that happen in, one thing happened, an injury happened, you ran into this doctor that gives you these pills, and the next thing you know, you're an addict. He never went out to become an addict or searched it to become an addict. These are little increments that happened in his life that happened to him that he became an addict, And so, as he's telling me this story, the story was about how, we look at addicts and we look at them and we think, well, they're getting, you know, they're getting what they deserve, or they're the ones putting the drugs in their body and stuff. And you know what? We got to have some kind of compassion, man, because these people didn't set out to do this. A lot of them didn't, you know, and I want to say most of them didn't, you know, but it takes you, and it takes you in increments. It takes you in little tiny bites, and all of a sudden, the next thing you know, you find yourself into something that you can't, you know. And he was never able to tell his story, you know, and I could tell when I was talking to him that he wasn't in the best of health. He wasn't in the best of health, and I don't know where his mental state was at, you know. But I know one thing, that he talked about his kid. He had a kid, and his mind was on. He wanted to do good for his kids. He wanted to do better for his kid, you know. And he was telling me all about her, you know, and how much he loved her. And unfortunately, 3 weeks later, he passed away. He was never able to tell his story. You know, he was never able to tell a story. And I always knew that it was up to me to come out here. I'm not going to get emotional, but it was up to me to come out here and tell his story and let people know, let the world know that, you know, this is something that was done to him. This was something that was done to him, and that he just couldn't shake it. You know, and that he just couldn't shake it. This was something that was done to him, you know. We talked about God and Jesus being Lord and Savior, and he was raised up in a church or home, you know. And so people say, oh, they're from broken homes. They didn't go to church when no. You know, the addiction and the opioid crisis that is happening across America, you know, I just heard that in Seattle there was not enough room for the bodies of all these opioids ODs that are happening, you know. That there's not enough room for the bodies. You know, this is something that I believe in my person, that this is something that's deliberately happening to us, that they're doing this to our children, and they're doing this to our friends, they're doing this to their family. And I'm telling you, they're messing with the wrong people, because we're not taking it anymore, and we're going to be vocal about it. You know, we've lost too many and suffered too long, you know, and what's being done to us isn't right. You know, the Oxycontin, it wasn't right what they done to us, and what they did to our children, the people that suffered, and I could only imagine what my friends' parents are going through, having to lose him, and his brothers and sisters that broke their heart, you know. And I hope I did a good job of telling his story, you know. And going further, I hope we all have a little compassion for people that are struggling from addiction. There's life after addiction. Life goes on, and there is healing, but the healing comes through the cross of Christ. That's the only way I was ever able to find it. God bless.